All right, I think we're ready to get started for the deep dive this morning. I want to say welcome to everybody this Monday morning. It's December 16th. We're going to get the week started here talking about the most important topic in real estate. I was watching some of the comments. Let us know where you're watching from, Scott. I saw your message in there. Seems like things are picking up on the panhandle there, and interested to see if anybody else is seeing things like that. But that's great news that folks are out there and active. But just want to say welcome to everybody. This will actually be our final deep dive of the year. We're not going to do one next week or the week of New Year's. We want to leave you with something good. We're going to talk about expireds today. I'm going to share my slides. And I really think this is a topic that you're going to want to pay attention to. A lot of good information right now coming out. But see everybody. Gina, see you there in Dallas. Duncan in Cincinnati. Becky Jean, great to see you in Mass. So many folks. Maria, I see you there from Los Angeles. So many great folks joining. Glad to see everybody on the deep dive this morning. And listen, what I'm going to talk about this morning, I have had the chance to share this with a number of different groups. Actually did a recording this weekend over it. We'll do several webinars. You're going to get kind of a first look at it. And it's really the opportunity that lies in expired. So with that as a backdrop, I know folks are still joining. David, see you there in Shreveport, Louisiana. Great to have you on. So many good folks. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, all these slides. If you're a KCM member, you can go into the member area, grab these slides and use these on any appointment that you have or sitting down to talk to somebody, whether you have a listing that may expire or you're talking to somebody who has a listing that is expired. Use this information as you communicate with them, because there's a couple of things that I want to point out, and you may know this, but this topic of expired listings comes up at the end of each year, because December 31st is when we see more listings expire in just about every year than any other day, because most contracts that are written in the second half of the year are written to the end of the year, and so we see expireds coming to sort of fruition at that point and having to be dealt with, and something that truthfully over the last several years we haven't had to deal with in bulk. Certainly they have happened. And this picture here, maybe it's a homeowner or an agent, so some sort of frustration with it. Now, I'm gonna share something with you at the end of this deep dive, and I want you to be thinking about it. You can put it in the chat as we go through, and it's the number one emotion that a seller feels when the listing expires or their home doesn't sell. I'm going to give that to you. If you think you know what it is, put it in the chat. I'll keep an eye out for that. But even this picture right here of sort of a frustration in that is, I think, what most of us feel, and certainly if you're in that boat, if you're a homeowner, you feel that as well. But I also want to give a huge shout out this morning to RedX. If you're not using RedX, please go check them out. If you're a KCM member, you can get a discount through KCM. But they gave us all of this data and all of this information on the expired listings, and did a phenomenal job breaking down all of this information. So grateful for Curtis and the team over at RedX and all the work they do to get great information in the hands of agents all across the country. So why is this going to be such a big deal this year? Well, there are a couple of things happening in the market that I think are true in most markets. You'll have to say, okay, yes, this is true, or no, this is not true in my market. But the first thing that's true in most markets and true nationally is days on market has risen since 2021. This is a look at median days on market in November 21, 22, 23, and now in 24. So we know that it's taking longer for homes to sell in most markets. That again, you're going to have to say, okay, is that true in my market? Is it not? I would say it's true in the majority of the markets across the country. Second, inventory has risen since 2021, last 4 years, right? This is a look at active listings in November from realtor.com. You see that number growing. And I'm not telling anybody anything right now that you don't know, maybe that's happening in the world of real estate, but I more want to point it out to you and highlight. And the third thing that we know is the pace of sales has slowed. over the last several years, right? You see, sort of the fast pace of 21 and 22, and things dropping down when mortgage rates rose. And so those things are happening. And Scott, you put in there in the comments, I mentioned it, that things are picking up in the Panhandle of Florida in the last, I can't remember, you said a week or so, that things had picked up. And so that is great news. And certainly maybe other folks out there, are feeling the same thing. But no doubt over the last couple of years, the pace of sales has slowed. Why is this important? Anytime you see days on market rising, inventory rising, and sales falling, that equals expired listings. Okay. And I believe, and I'm going to show you a couple of forecasts for what RedX came up with to show you where I believe the opportunity is going to lie in expireds this year. But RedX said this: a lot of these homeowners are still interested in selling. That's certainly true. But what they need is an agent who can address their concern, offer a new strategy, and guide them through a better selling experience. If you understand their mindset and address those concerns, these leads will be more likely to list with you. Again, RedX took all the calls that people are making to expireds and distilled down the emotion or the mindset of sellers into one word. I'm going to give you that at the end. I want you to be thinking about that because it surprised me when I heard it in what folks feel when their home doesn't sell. But what's the opportunity? Well, in order to sort of uncover the opportunity, what RedX did is they went back to the first week of January of 2024, this year, and said, what happened? And I'm going to show you that here in just a minute, because we're going to use that information to say, okay, what could happen in the first week of 2025, just coming up in just a couple of weeks. So right here, the gray bar there on the left, the first week of 2024, 129,000, just over 129,000 listings in this country expired. Okay. The low end and high end forecast are there on the right. Low end forecast about 135,000 to call it 150,000. This is 149 right there. So we will see more expired listings based on trending. This comes from, hey, are they growing right now? Are they shrinking right now? Based on the trajectory expireds are on right now, we will see more in the first week of January than we saw last year. I don't have the number for 23 or 22, but I would guarantee it's more than that because we weren't seeing as many expireds back then. What does that mean? That means sales volume. There's a bigger opportunity for sales volume. And I think that certainly is true. And so what we want to do is go back and look at what happened with those expireds so that we can then give those that maybe we have a listing with, or that the expireds we're going after, the best advice. Okay. So that's what RedX came up with. We've got all of these slides and data points. I mentioned we're going to do a couple of different webinars. I'm going to do one with Tom Ferry on Thursday, one with RedX on Friday. Going to be a really good time to sort of get their take on everything happening with these expireds. But if we take this kind of idea, they're going to grow. There's going to be more sales volume the first week of the year. And I think that's important for a reason I'll tell you in just a minute. What happened with those listings when they expired? So let's kind of break this down. I want you to stay with me for the story here because it's important. First, half of the expireds that we're talking about at the beginning of this year relisted from January 1st to January 7th. This year, 2024, 129,000 listings expired or were canceled or withdrawn from the market. Of those homes, about half have been relisted so far this year. I'll tell you a question that I get is, how long did it take them to relist? I don't have that for you, but I would say, as you look at that, most of those move into relisting sooner rather than later if they're serious about selling their house, okay? So we know it splits about 50-50, 49-51 here in this graphic of those that didn't relist to those that relisted their home, okay? Of those, 1 in 3 relisted with a different or a new agent, okay? Of the 66,000 homes that have been relisted, about a third were relisted with a new agent. You see that there in the sort of the yellowish color of a new agent. 67% kept the same agent. They kept the listing. So depending on where you're sitting at listening to this, are you an agent that has a listing that's going to expire, or are you going after them maybe you want to use this to sort of communicate your point. But here's the bottom line with this. I think this is going to point to, in just a minute, price being very, very important. And if you have a listing that's expiring, it's time now to have the conversation with them, because there's somebody coming in right behind you who's going to have the conversation, who has nothing to lose, right? They're going to share with these folks why they believe the home didn't sell in an attempt to get that listing. Okay, so here's where it begins to get interesting. Most of the relisted homes have sold, 58% sold. Now, if you look at these two bars on the right here, 71% sold after relisting with a new agent. So that's key right there. Is that there's a higher probability of selling when relisted with a new agent. 51% sold after relisting with the same agent. That's important. I want to remember that. Why is that the case? I think there's something to be said for the new agent comes in and has a kind of a heart-to-heart, honest conversation with them that maybe the existing agent in a lot of cases did not want to have. Most of the sellers that relisted did so at a lower price. Okay. Now that's not, I don't think anybody's like, oh my gosh, David, that's unbelievable. I think most people understand that 62% when they came back to market, relisted at a lower price. That's why having the pricing conversation is so important. 17% here relisted at a higher price. 20% kept the price the same. Now stay with me on this. This is where the local expertise in pricing is critically important. Are we bringing the price down? Are we taking the price up? Because this is going to get more interesting as we look at what actually sold. So this is sellers right here that relisted, and the majority of them, 62%, did so at a lower price, 70% at a higher price. The balance, 20%, kept the price the same. Okay. Now let's talk about what sold. Here's where it gets interesting. Most relisted homes sold at a lower price. 80.6% sold at a lower than expired price. 14% sold at a higher than expired price, and only 4.9% sold at the same price. So what's the moral of the story there? That's a critically important conversation. The one thing, the higher probability is to have a pricing, to sell is to have a pricing conversation, not to leave the price the same. Okay, the data here and all the information that's been compiled by Redx points directly to that. Okay, now I think there are a couple other things that can happen in this conversation. So the seller has a couple of options. They pull the home off the market and they don't relist it. We know that happens about half the time. The other half of the time, they relist either with the existing agent or they choose a new agent. We know what happens there. The other option is they can FSBO. They can go, well, you know what, we're gonna do it differently. We think we can sell the house ourselves. We don't need an agent. That certainly is an option for people that are out there today. Now, there are a couple of interesting things that our KCM research team compiled from NAR on FSBOs, and I want to cover that really quick because I think it's a smaller piece of this in sort of the expired sort of narrative, but it is important. First point that's important. FSBOs as a percentage of all home sales has pretty much decreased. This is a look going all the way back to the 80s, where roughly 15-20% of homes were for sale by owner, to today about 6% of transactions are FSBOs. That number has come down dramatically, and I think there's some reasons for that. The complexity of sales, all the things that have to navigate in selling a home today, but you can clearly see in the trend, fewer people are for sale by owner today than what happened several years ago, several decades ago, no doubt. And so I think as we start to see this, we can help somebody make a good decision. Why are important reasons for selling as a FSBO? Well, the biggest reason, and certainly I think people understand this, the majority of people, 38% here, according to NAR, sold it to a relative or a neighbor. 30% didn't want to pay a commission or fee. That's interesting, right? We know that's alive and well in people's minds. 15% contacted the seller directly. You know, we sort of a bird in the hand. We have somebody that wants to buy the home, so we don't need to list it. And you can see the rest right there. But if I start to understand this, I can go, okay, where is this person at? That's thinking about selling, thinking about FSBOing. Are they going to relist? What are they going to do? 5 most difficult tasks for a FSBO: getting the price right. We talked a little bit about that this morning. Selling within the length of time planned, understanding and performing all the things, the paperwork that needs to get done, having enough time to devote to it, preparing the home for sale. All the things that FSBO folks say, these are the things that were the most difficult thing about selling our home. I think the other thing I'm going to underscore here before I wrap up, how the FSBO determined the asking price for the home. Majority said appraisal, 36% said recent home sold in the area, online home evaluation tool, all those different ways that people determine price. I think this is critically important that we understand the psychology of those that are going through an expired listing and the options that they have, and having the data on our side to help people make the best decision for them and their family, and to educate them on what happens. Where do you have the highest probability of success given sort of the path of an expired listing is what we want to bring to them. As always, as we wrap up these deep dives, I always want to remind everybody, KCM was formed in this thought that most agents in the business today know what's happening. Good agents understand what's happening, but only great agents can explain what's happening. And my hope is with all of this information, you can explain it and you can get the information out there. If you want more on it in your KCM member, you can go in and grab the 3 steps to winning an expired listing. It's an ebook that we wrote. Our research team, our content team wrote that, and it's done a phenomenal job in understanding the seller's mindset, understanding how to approach them, and get the best, sort of education and information in their hands so they have a higher probability of selling their home. So I want to go back to the question that I asked, and I guess I'll ask it here again if anybody wants to add that in. Do you know what the number one emotion is when someone's home doesn't sell? If you have it, put it in the chat. If you don't know it, you don't have to put it in there. But that's my question. When somebody's home doesn't sell, what do they feel? We started off, I had this picture, I'll bring it back up. There's, whether you're an agent or you're somebody working on a listing, you're somebody that has a listing that expires, you probably feel some sort of emotion, some sort of frustration in that. But I'll tell you this, it's not the number one emotion that Becky Jean, I see you there, disappointment. That's certainly what it looks like on the screen. It's not the number one emotion. I don't know if anybody else has any other answers, but that was a good one. Alpha Realty said mad. Donna, you said discouraged. I think those are all pieces of the puzzle of a home that doesn't sell. Tom, you said surprise. I think that's probably an emotion that's felt. But let me tell you what the number one emotion is based on all these distilled calls that RedX, has done. Folks that use our system have done. Number one emotion is embarrassment. They're embarrassed. They told everybody, Gene, I see you said hopelessness there. They're embarrassed, right? I told my friends we were going to sell this. We told our family we were going to sell it, and it didn't sell. What does that mean about our house? What does that mean about, our plans, all of that? They're embarrassed. And why do I bring that up? And Jim, I see you there. Bill, you said exhausted. Jim said fear. All of those are a range of emotions. But here's what I will guarantee you. If you can understand where that seller's at, and then listen, meet them where they're at, bring them all of this data, you will have the best chance at serving them and helping them sell their home, which was, the beginning of this process, their dream, their motivation behind it, whatever that is. We know all the reasons in the market today that people are selling to get closer to family. Maybe it's a job, whatever the situation is, we can help them do that. So as we wrap up today, my hope is that this will be information you can use to start 2025 with some great conversations, some great information, and even relisting some homes, or maybe picking up some homes as a new agent, a new listing to start off the year. Because here's what I'll guarantee you: how you start off 2025 will determine how you go into the spring and will determine sort of the trajectory of next year. So as we wrap up this year, last deep dive of the year, I am so grateful on behalf of our Keeping Current Matters team for all the folks that start their week on the deep dive, getting the best information in their hands so that you can get it in the hands of those that you serve. Know that we're grateful for it, and we'll see you back next year.